Making a movie about a break-in, what location would you use and why?
I think I'd quite like to use somewhere really public, like either an art gallery or somewhere there was like a big party. Because I really like break-in movies where they can't just break in, but they've got to sort of become characters and kind of blend in with the place. So there's that whole thing of the spy pretending to be other people in order to get close to the thing they want to break into.
What props would you use?
So I guess the props that it would have to have is like costumes. So different things, so the people who are breaking in the robbers could become different characters, I think is what they would need.
What music would you use in the soundtrack?
In the soundtrack, I think probably something really contemporary, really loud, lots of sort of heavy beats to kind of give the atmosphere that we're in. Or if they were somewhere really classy where they had to dress up like they were royals or blend in, whatever, you might have some music that kind of went with that. Sort of ironic music against the fact they're breaking in. So maybe some classical music or something.
If you were making a movie about a break-in, what location would you use and why?
I think I'd probably do it somewhere with like a 4-storey townhouse, and then like with a side alleyway, sort of showing like a risky building. But I think if you was doing a nice little movie script, it'd be nice to see someone climb up a drain pipe, and I think a townhouse you can get, they're quite high buildings, so you could have some sort of good shots of someone climbing up a drain pipe to get into an open window or something like that. So so somewhere in London, like Victorian Street, with a sort of an end where it's a dark alleyway that's sort of out of the way a little bit.
What props would you use?
I think obviously you'd want your actors in sort of like black clothes, you know, sort of to sort of like be hidden if it was being filmed in the darkness. And then it depends. It depends if it was a high-tech kind of crime sort of movie. I think I'd use some IT and see them cracking the burglary systems and things like that. But if it was a run-of-the-mill, just sort of your average sort of burglary, I think they'd have the usual things like screwdrivers, crowbars, that type of thing to get in, and maybe plastic sheeting to go over the glass so I don't hear the noise when it breaks and that type of thing. I think if they were traditional burglars, I wouldn't have them go down the weapons route, it's not needed. But if it was about a group of youngsters who are opportunists, then maybe they'd be carrying around what you'd sort of protection items. Maybe a knife could be used to help break in as well as be a weapon. If the person on lookout, you know, might have that.
What music would you use in the soundtrack?
I think if it was a movie about people and someone getting set up and caught, I think there's some good lyrics in a Madness song called Shut Up. It's all about it wasn't me either. It's sort of someone making excuses and saying how it wasn't him and he got set up in a crime. So that might be quite appropriate. But if I was doing a movie and another style of movie, I don't like lyrics all the time in background music, so I was thinking more something like Faithless, Salva Mia, because this is a tune, I'll start playing it while I'm answering. It kind of starts off as like sinister, and it's got some good sort of background synthesizer sort of sounds, and then the lyrics don't really represent anything, it's more background type of music, and then the beat gets faster and faster, so as the tempo increases, people have broken in, they're getting away, they're running away, they're escaping, and you're seeing them going around different streets as they're being chased to get away from being caught. And you know, the lyrics about I cannot change the way I am could be all linked to like their life. So
Ken, what location would you use and why?
Okay, I would use a quiet street, one that had 2 entrances to it or 2 exits to it, because if someone's coming in one and catches you, you get away the other. I would also have one where there isn't a lot of neighbours looking around. I'd use a back garden or a back door because they're normally where they happen, and that way it would give you room to film as well.
What props would you use?
I would use a kind of large screwdriver, a torch possibly, depending on what time of day you're doing the burglary. I would suggest at night is when most of them happen. I would then also look at something along the lines of a sledgehammer or a large hammer to put any locks in.
What music would you use in the soundtrack?
Bad Boys.
Huh. If you were going to make a movie about a break-in, what location would you use and why?
I would use LA because I would like to visit there, and yeah, it'd be a good opportunity to do so. But yeah, I just think it would be a good location.
I would go to Dubai because it's really rich. They got mad money, so like anywhere in Dubai, one of like the hotels, just do a little scam there, see what happens.
What props would you use?
I've never done a break-in before. That's a really cool question. But I think I'd use like a gun. I don't know, something to open the door. I'll think about it while she'll answer.
My would be a sophisticated kind of break-in. It would be like one of those real hustles kind of thing. So I just have a number of people that know what they're doing and just like infiltrate the actual place and scope it out, then see what happens from there.
What music would you use in the soundtrack?
You go first.
Music.
It's difficult to think like for the actual break-in scene. I think it would more be like, not necessarily a track, it would more be like a soundtrack, if you know what I mean. So I might get somebody to make original music so that you can build up the tension and all them things.
I think like, because I'm looking for that sophisticated kind of hustle, it'll be like just a nice, steady something. Not with too much drums or anything, too much bass, just a nice.
If you're going to make a movie about break-in, what location would you use and why?
Depending on what kind of break-in and what kind of topics you was thinking of what things. Well, if you're making a movie about people burgling some houses, then obviously your own house is the easiest house to use because obviously you can't get nicked.
Or your neighbour's house.
Yeah, or your neighbour's house, but make sure you ask permission because otherwise that really will be burglary.
No, you ask permission.
So yeah, next question.
What props would you use?
Well, the props I would use would be
a knife.
I don't know. As I'm not a burglar, I wouldn't really know how to do it, but I've seen it somewhere, yeah, where you can use like these little plastic Lloyd's things, yeah. So use the plastics on the O-lock, yeah. Yeah, forget the chub. If it's got the chub on it, you got to brace the door off, yeah. And bracing, for all those that don't know, yeah, is holding the door like this and whoops, and then the door will open. You get me? Expert. Yeah, no, and I'm not an expert. I haven't done this before. Yeah, this is just like I've seen it on the net.
What music would you use as a soundtrack?
Oh, as I'm a dubstep producer, I would use definitely one of my own or my genre of music, which is dubstep. Yeah, because it's got all different kind of samples in it that you could kind of use. I'll give you an example of if I was going to make a horror movie. Yeah, I would have something like this. Yeah, so that's one of them. If I was making like I don't know, a kind of thing with people talking about how people are not real or they're fake, or people are like so to say relationships between people. Yeah, I'd have something like one momentum. You're gonna have to cut all that bit in. I'd have this. That's what I would have it going about people and their relationships, yeah?
We'll get to that point after the recording.
At the after party, I see social butterflies all floating. Hey ho, let's all do the smoking.
Yeah, that's an exclusive you got right there. So yeah, no, if I was using, depends what kind of topics you're dealing with. There's always some kind of song that fits the topic that you're trying to convey to the audience. So either way, you just give it to the artist, and he probably could fit some music to what you're doing. So,
making a movie about a break-in, what location would you use and why?
I'd use Fabric nightclub because Fabric have the sickest sound system in there. So I'd make a movie about breaking into Fabric and taking their sound system.
What props would you use?
I'd probably need like costumes for the actors. Probably need something to like get the place open. So whether that's maybe some small explosives, some like get them ones that you hang on, you know, them gliding ones that go like the zip lines and things. Probably need, well, you need a van outside to put that system in because it's big. And yeah, that's what I can think of at the minute.
What music would you use in your soundtrack?
I'd use some dubstep, two-step kind of dark ambient sounds, so that obviously so it would be up to date and like give the sense of the club and the whole music venue, you know. So yeah.
If you're going to make a movie about a break-in, what location would you use and why?
Well, if I was setting it in London, which would be quite interesting because it's a very big urban area, I would have to choose a fairly well-off, sort of middle-class, upper-middle-class part of London. So I'm thinking possibly somewhere like Chelsea, possibly somewhere like Kensington, maybe up Hampstead, just so that I could make the most of what will probably be a big house and a fairly well protected area, so give the actors lots of things to do when they were breaking it.
What props would you use?
What props would I use? Well, I mean, it depends on what I would need to do the break-in. I mean, I'm thinking if I have to climb walls, maybe I might use a rope. Depending on how well versed I was in the art of breaking into houses, I'd probably have my own little bits of equipment like a hammer, maybe a small little hammer or a glass cutter. And obviously something to carry my loot in, so I'd need my loot in. Do I need my loot? My booty or my loot, yeah. So I'd need some containers and something to hide my identification from the camera.
What music would you use?
He's asking me all these questions often. Say again.
What music would you use in a soundtrack and why?
On a soundtrack for any film, my favourite bits of music, I'd squeeze them in there somehow. I like Chopin, and there's a lot of emotional content in Chopin that isn't very overpowering, so his music can underscore lots of emotional scenes. I like a band called Las Vegas, who are a very sort of hard-hitting Scottish band with very thick Glaswegian accents. So I might try to find a way of putting them in. I love Leonard Cohen, so I'd have him there for the moodier, sort of smoochier sections, slower sections. And for a bit of excitement, see, most of the exciting music that I can think of is attached to films already. Like John Williams' score for Jaws, which is really good for building up tension.